All right. I think it's working. There we go. Now it says I'm live. Now I just got to share this, tweet this, and all those other magical things. So there's the tweeter button. Put this out on Twitter. Too many windows open. There we go. There's my Twitter. I am live. There. All right. I don't know how effective it is, but we'll go from there. Oh, stream health going down. All right. Hello, everyone. I am chilling out here on a Sunday and not got a whole lot going on because my plans were ruined by rain. So I decided, hey, why not do a live stream? And if you wonder why I'm looking back and forth, and let me switch real quick. This is what it looks like to me because I have 3 screens and I'm sitting in the middle. So I have the chat over here for now. Hey, from Germany, I am alive. So anyways, I figured I'd do a stream today because I was just thinking about lots of things. And then I wanted to do lots of other things that I was even thought about doing a video about getting burned out because occasionally I do. But then it's raining and I'm like, okay, so I'll just sit at my computer. So, yeah. So, it's raining, so I don't get to go do my motorcycle or bicycle. That was kind of like the why part of the reason I'm sitting here. And I love doing these live streams and trying to find time. And this is, like I said, a little bit of the topic of tech burnout. You get too hyper focused on things occasionally, and to get away from it's important. Last night I was actually up pretty late, and we did the Sunday morning Linux review. We didn't do it in the morning because of the way things were working. Me and Phil were messaging last night, and Phil's like, I got nothing going on. I want to do it now. And it's like 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, 10 o'clock sounds night. So we did our Sunday morning Linux review last night, which means I thought I'd have today free to go do fun stuff, but it's raining. Motorcycles. I'm going to just throw that answer in here. I have a few of them. So I have a Suzuki S40 and Honda CT90s. For the off-roading and stuff. I love classic bikes and stuff like that, so they're kind of fun. That's one of my little hobbies between bicycling and things like that. But I'm also doing the live stream on my, whoops, let me close that. I live streaming here. That way I figured if you ask questions, I have things pulled up that we can talk about. Like how I'd create things. I just closed GIMP and stuff like that. Thanks for my vids on VPN. Yes, awesome. VPN filter, it's been a popular topic. I think there's a lot of people who are misunderstanding it. So that's why I wanted to do a few videos on that topic. And I, of course, just uploaded another one on here. I'm working on, I was going to do some more FreeNAS videos too. I ran out of steam of exactly what I should do. And yeah. Hello, Willie Howe. Willie Howe's on here? Yo, it's Willie. I love Willie Howe. He's got a great channel. Him and Crosstalk, we've talked about each other quite a few different times. Great. There's a lot of other great creators, and it's always fun interacting with them as well. I hate when people assume there's some type of competitive thing because we review the same product, and I always bring it back to, how many reviews even I watch before I buy a single product? And most people do. So I think that at the present moment, there's sometimes not enough reviewers for some products and things like that because we're always, looking for other opinions on these things or other perspectives because technology is a very, well, let's just say it's full of opinions on lots of different things. That being said, I like having different people's perspectives on it and stuff like that. Will you post a Ubiquiti point-to-point video testing them from a distance? Yes. The Ubiquiti point-to-points. We actually have a video we're working on. It's a lot of fun. We partly started it and just haven't finished it. We will hopefully finish it really soon because all the parts are about to get installed at a client. So we have to finish it because we just had 2 big jobs approved related to the point-to-points and the meshes and things like that. So we're going to mesh the cars together, not mash them, but mesh them. And I've talked about this before. So we're going to be able to do a mesh video, how that works, and show it outdoor. We want to do a few distance videos as well to kind of show beaming these across and things like that. So that's something something that I definitely want to do for the video systems. So videos on those Ubiquiti systems for the point-to-point. They're amazing how well they work. And I do laugh if people pointed out like the Linus video, and Linus just, I don't think he did a great video on that. I like a lot of Linus Tech Tips videos. I think he's pretty informative when it comes to the UniFi stuff. His video is not flattering. I'll just say that. About a GrandStream. Willie has, I'm not a GrandStream user, but I've seen someone reading it up. Willie has a great series on all the GrandStream stuff that definitely really cool. If you're into some of their equipment, Willie's covering it really well. He's got like a whole series he's put together. Chris does a lot of free PBX videos. A few people have asked me about more free PBX stuff. I'm like, look, I hired someone to do it as an expert because my expertise is limited on some of theirs. So they drop connection quite often. Is this normal? I'm assuming, Anthony, you're talking about the VPN. No, it shouldn't drop connection. That's kind of strange. I don't really know why it's doing that. I've seen a couple people message that. I do have some upcoming videos on Streisand VPN I'll be working with, and that should hopefully, because it's a newer project with some updates to it, maybe it will work better. You can look up Streisand VPN, but we've been using it for getting by certain filters, because one of the things Streisand does is automate the setting up of the whole OpenVPN over HTTPS tunneling, which is how you get by the deep packet filters that are on the internet. So hopefully more of those videos will be coming really soon. U5 is out for FreeNAS. They released the latest version on here. I have my main primary machine updated and updated my lab machine. So far, I haven't had any issues with it or anything like that. Part of the reason I didn't do a video is because I just kind of said yes and next, and now I'm on U5. Do get it if you're wondering, because it works really, really well. I haven't had any issues with it, but that's all been going great. But yeah, this definitely works. Issues with the UniFi Cloud Keying devices after a power outage. I spent a day yesterday trying to fix problems with that. I think Willie did a video on recovering a cloud key. Knock on wood, we only have a handful of cloud keys installed, and all of them have worked flawlessly without a problem. So that's not really been an issue there. The gaming place, that's not under NDA. That's just been delayed. And not by us, we kind of jokingly brought up the issue of the carpet. The carpet got delivered wrong. So like they had to pull out stuff that was installed and move it back. So our delivering of that project has been delayed, because delivering it becomes much more difficult when you then you don't have carpet. So they moved all the equipment, and now stuff has to be redone. So that will come out. The video is still coming. We still have more footage. We just haven't gotten around to finishing the project. We still got the servers for the camera system and everything else are just sitting on the other side of the wall behind me, because we can't put anything in until they're finished. And everything, they can't get, there's like a whole series of things. And I've talked about how contractors and delays and everything else. Yep, that's what all this is a whole mess of contractors, delays, and stuff like that. What are you going to do, though? I've been playing a lot, and I'm working on my next series of videos for the Zen stuff and all the stats and usage and load and everything else that is the XCP NG server. That's what all this is here. This is the Zen Orchestra, and I have I'm trying to figure out how to break it apart. So I actually recorded something, but I didn't think the content was quality enough, so I did not publish it. This is the Zen Orchestra with XCP NG. Currently, I have these two hosts running right here. What I'm trying to do is figure out how to parse it, or do I just make it a 2 or 3 hour video? It's a lot. There's a lot of things going on here to make all this work, and all the VMs and how my lab is set up, and there's a lot to it. But yeah, it's really a lot. So, self-hosted camera software you recommend? I'm currently using Blue Iris. I haven't found anything I like that much. I like the UniFi equipment. It works well. And Blue Iris, I have one client using it. It seems to work pretty well, but I didn't care for the interface that much. I really wish there was a great open source one out there. I don't feel any of them are ready for prime time that I've done any playing with or testing with, so it just doesn't seem to work that well. And I see someone asking about MINIX. I'm not a big MINIX person, so I don't know what you're asking. How about MINIX? I don't use it, so yeah. FreeNAS is not my main VM environment, so the stack works like this. I have XCP-NG running on a pair of servers, and then from there I have the FreeNAS hosting it. So actually, if we pulled into my main FreeNAS box, I'll show you. It's an iSCSI container. Come on, it's thinking. So there's an iSCSI container here, storage, Zen storage. This is actually where it's at, and it's all connected via iSCSI to here. So if we go over here, we look at the storage pools and like the production storage pool, production ZVal storage on FreeNAS. So that's how this is connected. So FreeNAS is at the back end for holding all the storage, and XCP-NG is the front end for everything. Thoughts on Blue Cherry NVR? I've never tried. No job openings at the moment. Blue Cherry NVR, never heard of them. Let's look them up real quick. Hopefully you're not trolling me into putting something. NVR. Interesting. Never used this, so 30-day free trial. OwnBIF compatible. Maybe something worth looking at here. So $75 perpetual, 8-port, 12-port. Okay, so per port licensing. Not bad. Do they have an online demo? Free 30-day demo? Cool. Might be worth looking at. I'll dig into this a little bit, so that's interesting. Hey, thank you very much. Yes, just tell me, what would you like me to do with Wendell? There's an accusation floating around that manufacturers boot MINIX covertly to surveillance purposes, the entire OS native on chip. I have no idea what you're talking about for the MINIX thing. But a collab between us and Windows. Oh, I'll type it here. XCP-NG. Collab me and Wendell. I met Wendell at PenguinCon. I talked to him for a few minutes. We just, in passing, chatted a little bit. But yeah, there isn't any plans for a collab, but not really anything I'm against. I just don't know what to collab with him about. I should say that. I don't know what to collab with Wendell about. He's a great guy. Me and him talked a little bit of shop. We talked a little bit of business. We talked about kind of what we do and things like that. And because we have a similar where, we have a YouTube channel, but we work in some of the larger tech industry. I've been working in it for a long time. He's a super smart guy. Really nice, and I just don't know what to collab about. That's actually one of my challenges. I know a handful of other YouTubers, and between timing alignments, figuring out what we want to do and when, and actually figuring out what to collaborate about, because we cover similar but different topics. It's sometimes hard to just find time and say, hey, Wendell, you want to just hang out online and BS about stuff without an agenda. I'm not very good at that, as you may have noticed by this current live stream, which is very unorganized, but more of a Q&A. Fragmentation with iSCSI on ZFS. Good question, and I want to point out how that works. So here is our system, and this is how you avoid fragmentation on there. Please note that despite having a 14 terabytes here, we've only got it partitioned at a little over right around the 50% mark. And the reason for this is if you keep the percentages low. Oh, I got a warning on here. That's interesting. Yep, I got to purge some stuff off one of the drives. So cool. By keeping a separate storage pool, so the only thing that this does right here in terms of storage is store the VMs for my production, you eliminate fragmentation issues because you're keeping it at a rate that ZFS can handle the fragmentation. ZFS and it gets really complicated, and I'm not the best at explaining it, but it's really much, much less of an issue when you keep the drive capacities lower. That being said, if you want to really learn about ZFS, there is a book. Matter of fact, there's 2 books, and I happen to know the author, and I'm going to have him on my channel pretty soon, I hope. Michael Lucas happens to live right here in Michigan and not far from Detroit. Michael Lucas didn't just write the book on ZFS, he wrote 2 of them. I've been to several of his lectures. I've presented at the BSD group that he represents, not just outside of here in Detroit. He's a great person, a great writer, has a lot of humor. He wrote some books on SSH and security. He's a long time system admin, but he also wrote 2 books on ZFS file system, and I'm hoping to have him on because his explanations are so in-depth on how ZFS works, and it will only get you better in a better understanding of how it works and why it's a respected thing to do. So of all the just amazing features that ZFS has. Does pre-allocating the VM drive allow surpassing the 50% rule? I'm not sure exactly what you're referencing, but I think you're asking about how much you put on there. I don't even know how to, I don't know. That maybe send me a message so I understand better what the question you're asking about that. Good author just read Git Commit Murder. Yes, he writes, if you didn't know, he has a series of writings that are all fun fiction, and he loves play on words and cleverness. So being that he has a technical background, he writes a lot of fiction, and Git Commit Murder, definitely on there. And I think he has, let me pull this book up, Savaged by System D. Yes. He has a book be called Savaged by System D, an erotic Unix encounter. Now, I think I know what you're talking about, Mr. Thanks Ubumba. You're talking about the Intel MINIX thing. That's old news, and there's ways to get around it, and not every board has it. So it's nuts that they can spy on you. It's really not that powerful. There are some concerns, and they have removed it. You're talking about I forget what it's called now. I think we covered it in a video. We've covered it a couple times on our SMLR podcast. It's the what is that called? Intel. What is that thing called? The Intel Network Interface. I can't remember the name of it now. Well, type in Intel MINIX because I know that will come up. Yeah, it's old news, and a lot of people have worked to get rid of it. It's not. Yeah, it's kind of a billion machines using Intel's processes. It's not. It sucks, but it's also. Thanks to the NSA, actually. The NSA has actually instituted a kill command for it, and we covered that. It was kind of funny a couple podcasts ago. So actually, if we can, NSA MINIX kill command. Yeah, somewhere. There we go, right here. Disabling Intel ME11 via undocumented mode. This is actually kind of fun to read. So the NSA apparently pressured Intel because they didn't want this on the server equipment. So there's actually a hidden command that got documented to turn off IPMI on these boards that commercial server boards mostly all ship with the IPMI, which is the MINIX, which is what they're talking about. People want to suggest that it's a worse problem than it is, but the reality is they have found some firmware problems with it, which are obviously the greater risk. And because these are an always attached network interface, there is a potential for people to break into them. The NSA, being aware of that being a potential threat vector, even at the time not knowing any potential CVEs, they had them bake in a command that allowed them to completely disable it, which made for a fascinating read, which I thought was pretty cool. So it got baked in there. So there's actually a good thing the NSA did because although it didn't get documented, like all things, eventually things get found out, and it actually allows you to block it. So block a MAC address in pfSense. I don't know why you would, but I think you can. If I wanted to block a MAC address, I would probably create a rule and a special rule. Would it be under advanced? Can you do it here? Tag, max states, max connections. Yeah, I don't think there is a block a MAC address. So it doesn't look like it. Yeah, I have not installed Lenny yet on my free PBX. I've seen that come up. No, I haven't yet. So yeah, let's say you allocate an entire pool, but you provision a VM image instead of having it thin provision. Does this prevent fragmentation issue? Kind of. Well, let's step up back further. XCP-ng over LVM iSCSI doesn't support thin provisioning, which is actually fine, because when you don't thin provision over iSCSI, you end up with the full provisioning over the iSCSI, but FreeNAS then applies the algorithm to it that allows it to use less space. And I'll show you that because right now, if you look on my production VMs here, what you're seeing is a 1.5, so it's 1.5 times compressed. It's compressing it quite a bit because of the repetition of nature of VMs. So by doing that, yes, I guess you're right. It kind of gets around some of the fragmentation because it does it, and then you're letting the default LZ4 compression, the stock compression inside of here, automatically compress everything and avoid some of those issues. So yeah, that's definitely that. Yes, so it kind of does, but you also can't thin provision over iSCSI. It's just not a supported feature right now of Zen Server, either Citrix or the XCP-ng version of it. So yeah, I was going to say you can assign a MAC address a static IP and block traffic to pass that IP. That's an option on there. The reason I don't see a big deal about blocking by MAC address is, generally speaking, you don't want to do that because people can just swap their MAC address. MAC addresses get swapped all the time. That's pretty arbitrary to do. So yeah, not a big deal. But obviously, the other option is you go into the DHCP table inside of pfSense, and when you're in a DHCP table, you can assign a MAC address, a static, and then you can apply rules to it directly like that. So that's a whole nother set. Matter of fact, what I've seen some people do is you can create a range, and then you push a rule set based on several IP ranges, and then you can create your own kind of staggered down rule set, so you can say everything in this IP range has this rule set applied to it for things like, blocking Xbox and stuff like that. Yep, you can also block on captive portal. That works as well. RAM usage with dedupe. RAM usage right now, this is my production system, and it has 16 gigs of RAM, which it's always going to use all of it, by the way, in case you didn't know. That's the way it works. But the majority of the RAM is going to be used for caching for ZFS, so it's really hasn't been an issue. So despite me having 6 terabytes here, what's this one? 6 terabytes there. 1.4, 8.4, 14 terabytes. Got 3 different sets of drives. I still don't have that. I know it's a general rule that you may want, so many gigs of RAM, but that's a lot of it for caching. And what ZFS does, and we have net data on here, so we can actually break down the memory usage a little bit differently. So where's net data? So you dig into net data and you start looking at the memory usage inside of here. So much of it is going to be utilized for caching. So that's like right now we're in it, so we're seeing a few other bumps here and there. But when it comes to the memory usage, pretty much all of it, and I think we could go here to the ZFS file system. Here we go. 10 gigs of it is being pushed towards caching, and the rest is going towards, actually 11 gigs right now. So this is where you're going to see majority of your memory go, is just towards caching it. And then you're going to see how the efficiency of your cache hits, because that's a lot of what it does. So it's the more memory you put in, the better performance you can get, but there's also a diminishing return once it gets so large that it doesn't make sense. That's why you don't see these depending on the load nature. If it's a load nature of database heavy loads running on ZFS, then you may see something different and from a design standpoint of even more memory. But a lot of times you just start going into having a ZIL for faster read and writes, like on a database load application. How many can I run? Let's see. If we go to host pools, how many are on here now? We have, I think there's 28 VMs on here. So let's go to none. Yeah, there's 27 virtual machines on here right now that I can spin all of them up at once. It's completely able to have that. So that's definitely not a problem in here to be able to do that. And of course, I have all my things like my test servers and stuff like that. So definitely handy. So other side of this, in case you're wondering, if you wanted to have the question of just how fast is any of this. So right here is my base demo. Let's actually go over here, home. We're just going to go here, Debian. So here's the Debian base right here. So this is like the one I base a lot of things off of. So if we go here, and how fast can I clone and create a virtual machine? So I go here and we hit clone. There. I've now gone and cloned the virtual machine. How fast does it start? So I click the button. Me adjust myself in a chair. Oh, look, it's booted. And in about 2 seconds, we got to count down the timer right here at the bottom. And it's booted. And that's it. So it's really fast as far as how all this works and things like that. So yeah, this is my production server for Zen. Can I run clone deploy? Clone deploy is dead. Sorry about that, but it's, yeah. Clone deploy has been removed. It's been removed from the repositories of FreeNAS. The project has been abandoned, so we don't run it anymore either. We just don't really have a need to, because pretty much everything, once it moved to Windows 10, that's it. It's on Windows 10. And everything else is kind of faded away because Windows 10 doesn't need to run the clone thing. So we're not really running that anymore. Yes, we run our NVR records to here as well. Matter of fact, specifically, when you're looking at storage, where is it at? UniFi NVR. So this is my videos, where all my videos get stored. So, and it's cleverly named UniFi NVR data. So, yeah. Production VM server stats. Like what? Oh, you want to know what it's running? Right here. So it's XCP NG 7.4, 40 gigs of RAM. Does it have the processor on here? It's a 24. It's a pair of dual Xeons. Well, you know what? I know where I can find that info for you real quick. It is... This is my pfSense lab. They're Intel X5670 2.93 gigahertz. So total number of CPUs is that many. It's actually very inexpensive to run this. I seen someone mention, Vince mentioned the power wattage thing. My DTE bill for the entirety of my building, which means running AC, heat, microwave, toaster oven, all the things in here, is only a few $100s a month. So this itself, I think we broke it down to costing me about $20 a month to run this entire server. 15, I think it's like $15 for everything, including like the FreeNAS. There's only a couple hundred watts between the two devices running. That's it. That's all they pull. So yes, it does pull there. So yeah. No, I use hardware for my pfSense install, and the reason I'm using a hardware for my pfSense install is because, I'll throw an example over here. If there's a patch to load on this system or any reason at all, then I have kind of a problem. I need to reboot because I need to get something up and running and working, and I don't want to lose my internet because I want to goof off while this is updating. So my desire to have the pfSense virtualized is just not there. I have no problems running it as a hardware. pfSense does not use a lot of power itself. Therefore, I run it as a direct piece of hardware. So, clone deploy is dead. I'm going to type that in because someone's asking again. Clone deploy is dead. There. When using rsync backputs, do you encrypt each file using GPG via bash script? Actually, kind of, yes, sort of, no. A little bit different. So what I do for backups and the methodology by which we... Oh, awesome. Thank you, Uncle Skeet. The methodology for backups is pretty simple. I'm using SyncThing for everything. And let's pull that up in another window over here. So here is my cleverly named server backups right here. And I think you can do this. Where can I... No, that'll reveal IP addresses. Think about that for a second before I click on something. This right here is going to be the server backups folder. And what I have done here, here's server backups, and here's how it looks on here. Where's the server backups? Oh, here's server home. My bad, I called it this in Tom backup. It's buried here. Either way, not that this is the most relevant part of what I'm talking about. What this does is FreeNAS itself does run SyncThing. So I have SyncThing installed inside of a jail. SyncThing goes through here and syncs all the files that get dropped in. So all of my servers every hour, because I want a copy of all the databases that run things like Invoice Ninja and stuff like that. I want them all backed up on the hour. So every hour, a encrypted file comes out of each box and lands in a folder called server backups. I have one for the wiki. I have one. Now I'm encrypting it prior to it leaving the server, so it's never a risk of not being encrypted, because right off the rip, it's encrypted before it leaves. And the password for it is very high entropy and stored on the server. And by doing that, if you were to get the file, you don't have the key. There's not a separate place you can get the key unless you have possession of the server. So this is kind of just a tiered level of security. So all the backups, even though these are sitting on encrypted drives, they're done across a VPN tunnel that's also encrypted. But the transport layer, even though it's encrypted, is also using TLS encryption for the transport layer, because that's how SyncThing works. So we can go a step further. This goes encrypted, then it lands on another SyncThing off-site. My LTS home backup is a server that sits in a closet that just grabs these files every hour and syncs them. Well, it grabs them as soon as SyncThing says they're available, so they land in a folder every hour. This has what they refer to as a watchdog service that looks for those files and automatically brings them over and sends them across the pipe over to the offsite server. So I've always got an hourly copy, and then on the weekends I do fun things like, back up every server, which, by the way, if you go over here, I'm not running a backup at the moment. Am I? No. Look, here's like some of the backups that are here, and then of course having this means I can go back and just restore any of them anytime and click, boom, done. This allows you to restore. And these are all XVA files that I can actually get to on FreeNAS. So if I want to take them, and I do, I back them up and then physically take them off site. These are all encrypted as well and stored on encrypted drives. But this allows me to just quickly jump in there and quickly, instantly restore any machine that I want to. Not to use a single one. I wanted to get my hands dirty, would be the biggest thing for my decision in FreePBX. I wanted to directly get in there and control all of it. So I wanted a deep dive into something. I don't mind complicated things. I'm not afraid of complicated projects. And oddly enough, in 2006 is when I first started working with Asterix, not FreePBX, but Asterix in general, because my company used to do some support installs for another company. So I miss playing with it. I was like, oh, cool, FreePBX looks cool. Chris happens to know it. I know Chris. He seems trustworthy. And so I started playing around with it, and I got the structure set up, and then Chris helped me with the details, and I've been really happy with it. I have some fun ideas, kind of some hacking I want to do with it, and that's part of the reason why. I didn't want just a phone system that worked. I wanted a phone system I could really, really tinker with to explore a couple ideas and future thinking stuff I have for integrations. So that's a big piece of why I went with FreePBX. I wanted something really diverse. Yes, I'm still using Pop! OS as my main box, and I do want to make what do you call it? I do want to make sure I didn't miss it, but I may do some videos on OwnCloud. I've used it before. It works great. I like OwnCloud. I have not used it recently. I have a few friends that run it, so like I keep in touch with the familiarity with it. I'm not ready to switch to it. We still use G Suite, and it's kind of my laziness. We have G Suite. It works really well. It's integrated tightly on the phones with my staff, and it's what we use to get things to share data amongst each other with a series of G Suite spreadsheets, which means because I have a solution that works so well, I'm not pressured into switching to another solution, but I really want to. I just, at some point, I got to make sure my toying with things doesn't disrupt things. So, let's see, kind of how would you hash backup get locally? Google can't. Yep. Yeah, that's exactly it, White Rose. Good point. Pop! OS is still my main desktop, so yeah. Sync things also syncs deletes. Yes, no. Depends on how you set it up. Yes, it does sync deletes. I keep, and this is where you go here, and let's look at this one. I know I have some revisions. You set file. I don't have it on this particular one, but this is where you can set file versioning. That way, if a delete happens, it doesn't do that. Then, to go a step further, where these are stored, there's a series of snapshots. See, these snapshots are occurring on all these drives, and because I've also got snapshots going every day, I have multitudes of backup on this. So yeah, you're right about it syncing everything. So if you delete everything out of the syncing directory, it does replicate that. But one, I keep revisions of it. Two, I'm also using the snapshot functionality in FreeNAS as well. So yeah. And you can set the backups to be read-only. That's also, you can set a master. There's other ways to do it as well. Absolutely. There's a multitude of ways. It's a great solution for all of those things. Synology NASs. Never used any Synology. I don't have an opinion on them. That would be my best way to describe it. They work, from what I understand, but I don't have an opinion. Oh, if you're wondering what the ZFS reads were, this is me booting that VM. Here's that little blip when you see that. So, yeah, and that's, this is something about when it comes to Linux in general. There are so many opinions. So I like Pop! OS. It really clicked for me that I said, okay, this is something I really like. And I see you mentioned, Brad, you like Mint. Makes sense to me. The other side of it is, I have the same debates with the people I sit across from my podcast with. Phil only runs cubes. I think he has maybe one Ubuntu machine. He's got multiple computers. He runs cubes. Tony runs Mint and won't change from it. And Mary runs FreeBSD. So we, coming back to my Sunday morning Linux Review podcast, even though we all get along, we all run different desktops. No two of us run the same thing at all. So that's something I really like. We all can run the same software, and yeah. So what do you recommend cloning, backing up headless Linux servers? All the headless Linux servers I have are running as VMs. So I back them up that way. And when they're not VMs in a like Zen server or something else, they're mostly running in clouds, different places. Therefore, it's really not an issue. Like the cloud companies do the support on there. Yeah. Phil works in DevOps security. If you met him in the Ansible video, he's also co-host of the SMLR. Phil is just really, really knowledgeable about these things, but he takes security very, very seriously, as he should, due to the type of work he does. In examples, just going to be able to just broadly stroke over what Phil does is DevOps security at a global scale. That would probably be a summary. Like, he has at his command global armies of servers. So he wants to make sure that his box is very locked down. How do you handle incoming emails? We just reply to them really quickly. There's not... yeah, we do have one email address. We have a support email address, all the text monitor. And if someone does it, someone will reply and CC that so we know which tech is handling it. Internally, frequently, it turns into a Slack message. And we start the Slack message for a lot of it. So that's, yeah. That's how we kind of determine who's going to handle it. we don't get that many emails from our clients. They seem to prefer phone calls over any other method. That is still their favorite. So just bypassing the... We are looking at ticketing systems. The volume we have, despite having several hundred businesses, I just haven't found the purpose. Like if we tie everything to a help desk, we just tie it to an invoice. It's just easier. It's less time, less headache, and not doing any double work. So it comes down to efficiency. I've known a few technicians, and I have a friend who works for a big IT company. He spends at least so much of his day just doing all of the different ticketing stuff, and it just becomes this big burden to him. He hates doing the paperwork. He almost like, oh God, I know I need to click 3 times to fix the problem, but 27 times to close the ticket. So there's also that. That's a it's just kind of a headache to do all that. Checkout request tracker. My problem is I don't want another system. I'm actually neither. So when it comes to that, I will let you know, and we're looking at this as an option because I think this is a great idea. I work with the developers of Invoice Ninja, and the Invoice Ninja is working on an integrated ticketing system. So we've been going back and forth and with them to integrate it so it can become part of the workflow where a client can do something through a portal and create a task. That task/ticket turns into a task turns into a line item on invoice. And I've talked about our process before. Let's just say call comes in, my Outlook doesn't work, which of course is always, the problem. My Outlook doesn't work, reboot, whatever. So real quick is our solution is really simple. We start the quote, we put it in there. We usually bill them for whatever small amount of time. We're done. We clicked it. We said fixed Outlook by rebooting computer, whatever dumb thing we did. We send them the bill because we rebooted their computer. And by the time their computer's done rebooting, we make sure that their Outlook opens. Okay, great. And we leave it in the queue, and maybe an hour later, we send it out. We look at all the things that each tech can look at all the quotes they opened and go ahead and hit create invoice, send. And that's it. No more process. The invoice is being done on a per technician basis. Doing invoicing on a per technician basis makes a huge difference because I have less admin time. And for example, my friend who works for a big IT company, they have a girl whose job is to sit around reading all the tickets and turning them all the invoices and things like that. Granted, yes, they use some automated software to do that, but then she verifies everything and makes sure it's nice and concisely typed to the client. Once you distribute the work amongst your techs to send the invoices, we suddenly can invoice really fast, and it works really well. If you use it for a solution history, that's very true. And if there's a solution that needs a history, it gets documented in a wiki under that client. The majority, so much of our work is not a solution that needs a history. It's the same stupid problem you deal with every day. Printer was turned off, so we told them to turn it on. You know how tech support is. It's grindy. It's awful. It's something that I think everyone should go through working a help desk at some point. And if you can survive and not hate humanity... So, but most of the troubleshooting we do is rarely something that needs to go in a solution database. 90% if I were to break it all down, I would say over 90% is repetitive problems because users forgot their password. Users didn't turn the printer on. They selected the wrong printer. We had a guy insisting it was broke. It turns out he was sending it to the printer down the hall and didn't look because the company has 2 printers. And by the way, it's not the first time that same customer's called. Now, could we track that? Yeah, but what's the difference? We can't give any better feedback because unless we can get the company to fire the guy, he's going to call next week with the same stupid problem because he doesn't appear to be getting any smarter. I thought about a bouncer for our support email stuff that just replies, did you reboot it? Because that's half the fixes that we do. And because of that, like I said, the big picture is I don't want to burden my techs. The goal is to to make things go really, really smooth, get billing done fast, because the ultimate goal is to make some revenue if you're running a business. And this is one of the ways you make revenue is make sure all the invoicing happens kind of almost in real time. Like I said, too many techs have skipped ticketing because of the trouble, and now you're costing yourself everything from revenue to them going, it's just too much trouble. So how far away from your office have you worked on a client project? That depends on how you look at it. If you count remotely, overseas. If you count drive time, I've drove 2 hours on a couple occasions for specialized projects and things like that. So yeah, that's just, we try to keep them very local. I have an old video I did. I said I keep my clients, the majority of my clients, and I'm talking like 300 of them or so that are businesses that we're doing some type of IT work for. One of the things I do is you can draw about a 30-mile circle around the majority of them. So we do everything via Invoice Ninja. We're using SolarWinds for our RMM tool, and then we do everything else inside of Invoice Ninja, and then we use a wiki to document things. So see, would you say that an older firewall in their life and updates is a serious non-commercial with a good password home use, or something we should switch to a newer one? Old firewalls without any updates, yeah. I don't know. It depends on which one. Some companies make better firewalls, some people don't, and that's kind of, I don't know. Go with a newer firewall whenever possible. So, nope on OpenStack. I'm familiar with OpenStack a little bit, but I haven't really used it much. So, yeah. We're thinking about expanding some of our service areas as long as there's a technician or somewhere close. We thought about working out deals with other technical companies that can do more hands-on and stuff like that. Cisco, Dell, Zywall, some of those are some of the older Cisco ones, as long as there's no CVEs for them, they work perfectly fine. You can pick them up used on eBay, and always the easy way to check. Take the model number, see if there's a CVE of a known vulnerability, and away you go. So if there's nothing wide open on them, then awesome, then go ahead and use it. It makes sense. So there's that. What else was I going to cover on this? I got to do some more tests related to this. And actually, let's pull up my VMs again. Where's that one I just made that was a clone? Here's a clone. Stats. Move my head over here for a minute. So I think, let's open a Lawrence system in South Atlanta. Woohoo! What hardware do I use for pfSense? My hardware is old and insignificant. It's embarrassing, so I won't share it. It's an old AMD chip, and I can't remember which one right now. And if I log into my pfSense to look, I'd share my public IP information and lots of personal details that I won't share about my pfSense. But it's nothing great. Yeah. One of the things I will admit for Cisco when it comes to some of the backdoors, I'm not a Cisco expert, but I do understand, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of the Cisco equipment won't allow you to update unless you have a license for it. So yeah, I have not used a WatchGuard in a while. I've always hated them for their complexity. I hated them and ripped them out from a client when we got in a fight with the WatchGuard people. Other IT guy left. They had spent thousands of dollars on these high-end WatchGuard. And this is, years ago, like maybe 2009. All these, red box WatchGuard. And this is ones that had to use the Windows software to manage them. You couldn't manage them through a web interface or a command line. So we needed the software. WatchGuard refused to give me the software despite the client having purchased 3 new WatchGuard devices because the other guy took the license for it, but they wouldn't give it. And I'm like, this software needs to be licensed is stupid to me because it only works with WatchGuard tools. So yeah, we're just like, that is enough to leave a bad taste in my mouth with a company that treats their clients like that spends thousands with them. The good news about it all is we were able to put them on eBay because people wanted them enough, and we swapped everything out with them with, I think it would have been pfSense back then, and they were better, and the things went well, and we've since upgraded everything to, I know it's all pfSense now. I think it's what we installed back then too. What am I looking for here? My terminal. Network dis. .3. This is kind of a cool thing. So right here is the IP address for the this VM that we just started, the one I just cloned. terminal bigger. What is it? 238. Oops. So speed has come up a couple times. People have asked, how fast is it? Now, this is on the lab. This is not on my production ones, which I have even faster hard drives. But somewhere on here, let me see if is it FS Mark? I can't remember which one's which on these. Benchmark. So Palo Alto, I didn't know about Zen Orchestra. Does it manage containers? I believe it does. I'm not a big container user, but I believe that is among the things that are supported on there. So yes, I believe so. I think it does. So I just don't do many USGs at all, and I don't do the VPNs on them. So not really my thing. It's not the test I was looking for. There's a couple tests I was trying to run, and maybe if some of you know the Phoronix test suite better, so I can show the speed of the hard drive. If you're wondering, and this was going to cover real quick, people always ask, how fast is Zen server with a FreeNAS backend with spinning hard drives, and should I go SSDs? Short answer is, I get close to SSD speed out of it. So you can get some incredibly fast transfer speeds out of Citrix Zen server, or I'm sorry, XCP NG Zen server or Citrix, both connected via iSCSI to a FreeNAS box with a 10 gig connection. So if you're doing capacity planning, and we've built some of these for clients, it works really well and it's really, really fast. Crazy things on FreeNAS or FreePBX. I have some ideas to just do different integrations for the way the ticketing works. I want to integrate like a ticketing Q&A system in there so it kind of talks to people back and forth. So that's a whole, yeah, the kind of that kind of level of integration. I'm kind of looking at some plugin ideas. So that's some of the free PBX ideas. The USGs, I've seen some VPN videos on them. I tell you what, if I have to do VPN, I'm not going to go with USG. I'm going to go with pfSense. It just has all the features I want. For the cheap clients that just don't need anything, and I'm talking about all these little small businesses, we throw USGs in, they work. Pretty much, and I mean, we've got like a few salons, we've got all these like little small mom and pop businesses. There's simply no VPN. They have 3 or 4 computers in the office, if that, and they want a guest internet. So we would give them a UniFi Wi-Fi, a USG, throw them on managed Wi-Fi, and hit go. Done. There's nothing else. We push updates to them, so we keep their router secure. It works well. There's not even a single firewall port that needs to be opened in it. So there's simply nothing going on there. Hardware phones for your free PBX. Yes, I have a video where I cover that. We're using some Cisco SPA 5 something. I don't remember the models. They're in that video. And we have the Yealink W56P wireless phones. And then I use Zoiper on my regular phone here. So this is running Zoiper right now, which does work really well. Zoiper is great. If you haven't used it, highly recommend Zoiper. And maybe I'll do a specific review on Zoiper too. What was the other test benchmark I want to run? I was playing with all these list of available tests. Was it maybe FIO? Now I'm curious. Is it IO Zone, I think. There we go. So if we did 2, 3, no. See how much speed that pulls on here. Same thing I do. Yeah, probably, Vince. I mean, I think it's kind of the same thing. Just the basic ones. That's mostly what I end up doing on them. Just swap them out to a basic USG, make it happen, and away we go. So, yeah. See, battery in the background. Ground wire. Yeah, that's always a concern with them. I turn Zoiper off when I'm not in the office. So any of them do pull some background. And so that's kind of my way of avoiding some of that. So how long were you a one employee operation? Almost never. And the reason why I say almost never is I had contractors from the get-go because I came from corporate IT. I knew everyone. I knew who to call. That was my value as corporate IT. So I technically had no employees for the first year, probably first year. Because 2003 is when I started my business. I had to think about this here. With starting the business in 2003, I only used contractors, so I didn't have anyone. So I was kind of coordinating projects. Then I bought out another company in 2005, which was a retail store / TV repair. So I had a TV repair business for a while, which means I instantly had staff and everything else. So, okay, for those of you paying attention to what's finishing running over here, was it 400 megs a second here? Yeah, 400 megs a second. And this isn't my newer drive. These are my older drives. So like I said, I'm getting in the range of SSD speeds on spinning drives with this configuration. I'm going to quit beating up on my hard drives here. So in case you're wondering how well this works, I know I'm distracted. I'm doing 20 things at once, but among the things I'm doing is this. So, so it gives you an idea just how fast this system is running on the FreeNAS with spinning drives. By the way, if you want to know, all my hard drives are HGST, the HGST NAS drives. I've used them before. I've talked on them before. They're absolutely great. But like I said, you can see the peak speeds in here. When you look at it from the raw VM disk output, right here is 526 megasecond. So yeah, it's very, very fast. That's part of the reason this whole system is very fast. Because I ain't seen some people going, you should all switch to SSDs. And I'm like, why? Do I need some? I mean, okay, do you need or do I want? Do I want something faster than 572 megs a second? Well, of course I do. Do I really need it? Well, at some point I got to show some self-control. Let's see. Do you see an actual benefit from the chamber? Now, this is a, that's sequential speeds, not random 4K when you have a database, SSDs. Yes, there are going to be times, if David G is completely right. Yes, there's going to be certain times when you want an SSD because of a lot of other factors. Storage planning is a lot more than thinking about the IOPS and which drives to use. There's a lot that goes into it. For example, when we've coordinated sales of storage servers directly from TrueNAS, we're talking like the $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 enterprise equipment, like some of the TrueNAS boxes I reviewed. You work with the engineers to really talk about the workload and planning life cycle, so you can buy the right equipment to do the thing you're going to do. So there's what I set up works for what I'm doing. If you have some special high intensity application, there's something specific you're going to need. Chambers of Commerce, yes and no. The Chamber of Commerce, we belong to several of them, and we dropped our membership because there's so many. There's actually a handful of them around here. We dropped our membership from 2 of them because they were useless. We just didn't get anything from it. They had a very small pool of businesses. Their events sucked flat out. And I even told them that because they said, hey, want to renew your membership? I said, no. And they want to know why. And I said, I'll lay it on you. You guys have poor events. You have poor turnout to your events. You don't market them very well, which I'm on a mailing list and I didn't know he's get them. I would notice them, and you don't post them anywhere like Facebook. So I kind of laid into the chamber people a little bit of those chambers. So hopefully they will improve. And I said, if you invite me to an event and I see a lot of people, I'll consider renewing my membership. So that is an issue. That being said, one of the chambers we belong to does really well for us. The other ones do very poorly. So yes and no on the chambers. There's not like a cookie cutter answer for getting it. AS400, as in, like, make sure we got the right thing. The old IBM AS400 systems, the old school stuff. I don't know. I don't really have a big opinion on that. So, that's let's see. Replaced by the IBM Power Systems in April 2008. Yeah, that's old stuff. I don't know. I don't have a ton of opinions. I worked on so much old hardware. I used to do AIX administration and everything else starting in the 90s. So I've been doing this for a long time. I don't know. I'm not really nostalgic for the good old days of stuff. We met a lot of our clients from the chamber. So the one chamber gives us a lot of clients. The other chamber, I spent money and renewing dues and got like a client in 2 years from. So one of them, I can probably cite 50 big clients. And for example, the large gaming place I'm building, that's a large build out. And we met them through the Chamber of Commerce. That's a wonderful sale. And everything's going really good. Matter of fact, that's also going to be a transitional sale. So we're doing the build out for it, and now we're going to be moving into doing the social media marketing once they open. So their sale starts at Lawrence Systems and then going to be moved over to LTS Creative to help build things for them. So yeah. So that's I mean, there is good to have from the chamber if you have a good chamber. So that's why I can't just automatically qualify the answer. Let's see. How do you manage mobile clients, cell phones, device policy, or UniFi solution that works with Android, Apple that has worked for you in the past? No. Most of my clients are using Android, and happens to be the ones with Android are all using the G Suite system, and they manage them that way. For the couple that care about managing, the majority of our clients, they don't provide cell phones for their staff, so there's no relationship between their devices and that. So there's not really anything to govern it. Matter of fact, I'm kind of surprised. I don't know if I can talk about that. Damn it. I had an idea. I got to find out if I can talk about it. Maybe I'll do some talking about that. Yeah, there are some solutions out there, but I'm surprised a lot of companies don't do anything about it. So yeah, we got most of the pricing structure worked out. Me and Marvin's got to sit down next week and kind of get those details worked out for the pricing structure and put the packages together and redo the website. There's pages of stuff, and it's actually the task that I dislike the most is doing all that. So that is something I need to do. I haven't done. Yeah. So, so your old computer creation is. BNI can be good. Similar groups. I'm not specifically a fan of BNI, but it could have been the group that I was in sucked. They drove me nuts. They were pressuring me for leads, and the problem I had with that, of course, is the BNI group wasn't bringing me any real leads that would turn into real business. So like I said, my feelings on the BNI groups are hit and miss. It's just kind of say it was a chamber, find a good group and go to it. Some are good, some are, some are bad. We will be posting how we package things because we're going to make our website more in depth on how we do that. And it's not doing you any good if I share prices because if you're in a different area than me, then you're going to have a very different pricing schema based on what things cost. People are shocked at how little I pay for my building, but that's the nature of where I'm at. My house, if I dropped it in another city, becomes substantially more valuable. Everything around me becomes more valuable. All I gotta do is pick it up and move it to a different city. And we have a major diversity here in Detroit. Detroit's a weird area because this city has areas that are worth absolute fortunes, and they have only 8 miles away where you could just go buy a house right now for I think they still have some $100 houses for sale in Detroit. Yeah, 100 house Detroit. There we go. 13 Detroit houses you can buy for less than $100. This is not a joke. And people, this is a little bit older article, but this is still going on. So this obviously is what drives some of the pricing. And so I won't go off on that topic too far, but there are still a lot of areas that that's an issue in. So pricing, I won't be posting. Packages, I will. YouTube has accidentally become my best marketing, but it's something I really like. Now, That being said, it depends what kind of marketing you're asked for. Because I'm asking people to contract me to set up their PF Sense boxes and help them with firewall things, because we're good at doing that and good at helping people with that, that part is a good marketing. If you're not good at that and you're trying to advertise it, what we're not getting as much from PF Sense is your general businesses aren't going on YouTube to look for us. So our marketing there is still direct marketing, word of mouth marketing, and that just is what works best for that type of marketing. So if my goal is to get the XYZ accounting office down the street from me to switch, advertising on YouTube is not the likelihood of me landing XYZ accounting company as my client. That is still going to be word of mouth is your absolute number one all the time, because any business, especially if you're in our market, B2B businesses, for example, transportation clients that we have, all the transportation clients kind of stem from me 15 years ago working in the transportation industry. So all these people, they remembered me. I've interacted with them over the years, kept in touch. They work for different trucking companies. And these trucking companies, because they're like, hey, we need to find a computer guy to do a thing. Hey, call Tom. He was a great computer guy. So yeah, that's going to be how we get a lot of our business. YouTube marketing, in terms of marketing towards all of you guys and some of you on here, some of you who contract me to do work and things like that, that's actually gone really well for us. And we're really happy and thankful for any of you that have used our services. And just for all of you that watch our videos, we're really happy about all that too. So yeah, Detroit, way different than San Francisco. That's, we're going to keep the packages very simple. We're going to talk about some of that. We're going to do a video on how we do the package pricing, as I think there's going to be a lot of people asking about that. Yeah. Knocking on doors, cold call mailers, still do that. I've sent Marvin around just to bang on doors. Some of the cities have gotten wise to it. One of the local cities, the police will show up before you can get out of the building that you walked into. They are so strict in cities with a no soliciting city policy, they have tickets they issue for it. So you have to be careful on knocking on doors. That's why the Chamber of Commerce, if you interact with them even a little bit, find a reason to stop by. And I'll show you guys something sitting on my floor here. This was a marketing trick given by someone who wants me to buy into their services. If any of you work in IT, you probably even have seen this trick. And they mailed me a letter that is in, they call it the red envelope. And these are things you can do, and we're going to talk about some of these things. This bright red envelope addressed to me with $1 in it, with a letter of, hey, let me introduce you to our services. Now, I don't know that I'll buy from this person or not, but I will give, you know what, this won them a phone call. Because they took the time to give me $1, mail me a letter in a bright red envelope, I've decided that earn them my time to speak with them Monday on something they want to sell me as an IT company, on some services for marketing that they do. I don't know that I'll use them. Maybe you guys recognize logos on here or not. I'm not going to say the person's name who did this, or the company's name, I should say, that did this. But that being said, there is marketing tricks you can do, sending clients things. I think I have talked about a stupid marketing trick, and I'll share it with you guys again. I'm quirky and odd, if some of you may or may not have noticed, but when I get in my hyped up mode and I'm entertaining people, you want to first start with, you want to give them some value or some knowledge and things like that. And we and Marvin have talked, and we did one of our Vlog Thursdays. We started at Joe's Hamburgers, and we talked about how we interact with people and have like a shtick we put on and make some fun. And I've also done my stupid thing that I've been doing for years is take my magical ink pen. They solve all your computer problems. Let me know if it works. If you have any computer problems that this ink pen doesn't solve, just call the number on the ink pen. It's quirky, it's stupid, but if you're interacting in a fun, engaging way with people, because you know what people don't care about? VPN filter and the firewall details. The general business owner is focusing on whatever it is that makes their business go. So you got to have some way to interact with them on a level that they can understand. Maybe you understand something about their industry, something relevant you want to talk about. What they're generally, there's going to be some exceptions. They don't care about the firewalls. They don't care about the servers. They don't care about the details. They care about making their business work. So when you think of it from a business outcome approach, that you're trying to provide them a solution, and that's why our slogan is, we focus on technology so you can focus on your business. And that's how we introduce ourselves. That way they go, oh, okay, you'll take care of all those tech things I don't want to do. And that's kind of the thing. Yeah, we'll make sure all this works. And when you think about this from a stance of like, maybe I'll get Mark on here. Mark's one of our clients. He owns a transportation company, great guy. But Mark has done this with other sections of his business. Mark owns a fleet of trucks. Mark does not own a service garage. Mark leases the trucks and has a service plan he pays for to service those trucks. He also has a service plan that he pays for, and Tom services his computers. So it's the same concept. So you're just one more cog in the wheel. You just have to make it clear and concise to understand them. That's why we'll go all the way back to package pricing. If you offer them these tons of packages, you get a client who can potentially be confused versus when you consolidate it and go, this is what we will do. This is the business outcome you'll get for this money. And now you get a better understand. RJ45, Jack says, I got to get Corey on. I don't know. Whatever one Corey wants me to order him. I will be the most honest I can be right now. I don't have a personal preference. I let Corey tell me what he thinks works best when he goes out and does the installs. I rely on my staff. I do not force them or dictate to them the exact tools that they should use. The reason why, I want them to be efficient, and I don't care. I care about price, but not to the point where I will say you have to use only this brand. So I let them. I'm flexible on all that, is the short answer. Whatever they want to use, so I don't have a particular. I know we buy a lot of stuff at Monoprice. I know because I see the bill. That's where Amazon and Monoprice are super popular. We have a couple other places. If you haven't heard of ADI Global, yeah, you know what? On occasion, I've had to run to Home Depot and buy stuff that's randomly has occurred. It's not my preferred place to buy things, but we have. Matter of fact, for a little while when cable prices were fluctuating a few years ago, Home Depot was cheaper by quite a bit. So it turns out if you signed up as a contractor at Home Depot and got some big discount, we were able to buy cable cheaper than any cable vendor could provide it to us. So keep an eye on prices when you have to buy bulk. And we're talking like when I had to buy 80 boxes at a time for a project. So when you got to buy that many boxes, shop around and get a discount when you're buying. It, like I said, generally is high price, but when it came to only the cabling, not any of the other gear related, just the cabling, we got the 80 boxes of cable we needed cheaper from Home Depot than any of the vendors could by almost 20%. So, and we had paid no shipping on it because they'll bring it right over to their place for pickup. So, yeah. Yeah, the jacks, oh yeah, their jacks are packaged for like retail pricing. So jacks are cheap on Amazon and things like that. I don't know much about the brand preference. I know which ones Corey likes because he just goes to the Amazon cart and reorders them all the time. That's generally the solution. I never really covered it. Not that it's a big deal. Most of our ordering is done through Slack as well. My guys will drop a Slack link of Amazon of what they think we should get, and we put it all in the cart, and a couple of us have access to the Amazon, and that's just a convenient way to do it. So, yes, you're going to see a lot of changes in the MSP. So you have this big curve right now, and think about this from a business perspective. Sure, I like my accountant to make a good living. Do I think my accountant that I pay to do my file my taxes and stuff should be charging me 10 times what they charge right now? No. The market has kind of evened its way out a bit in accounting. As a matter of fact, we have occasionally price shopped our accountant, and they have been within 10% of what we're quoted for business accounting for our area, which I think is great. Now, come over to the MSP side. This is where it gets interesting. With the MSP people, not so much. I've seen prices that are everywhere on this stuff. And we've taken over a couple MSPs. And when me and another local MSP had a meeting together and we talked about one of the other MSPs, they came in strong. They got an excellent sales team. But they're also charging 3 times what me and this other guy who have reasonably the same prices within a few dollars, they're charging triple. And they say they're better. They literally are using the same stack as us. So what's better about it? And that being said, I know one of their sales guys because he actually reached out to me because he didn't care for working for the company. And I told him I can't pay him. He makes $140,000 a year as a sales guy, $140K as a sales guy. That being said, the only way to pay a guy, a sales team, they have several of them, $140,000 a year is to be charging that much. I don't know what's right and what's wrong in terms of how much money you should make or where the margin should be. They seem to enjoy a very high margin. So, yeah, that's a whole lot to be charging. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I think you're going to see a market adjustment as these, we've kind of fallen into, most of us are using very similar stacks, very similar choices of software, hardware, and when it comes to small businesses, especially the small business market, even the bigger business market, things are moving into the cloud. So we're seeing less and less things on site, less and less on-prem servers, and Windows is becoming irrelevant. Whether you believe it or not, Microsoft is highly aware of this. I spent a lot of time hanging out with the Azure folks and the direction Microsoft's going in. They realize the sun is setting on Windows. No, it's not Linux that's replacing it either. It's not being replaced. The desktop as we know it is all moving to, web-enabled services. Web has become very powerful. It allows people to get things done. They do not need a special desktop that needs special support. Picture companies using more things like Chromebooks. People who have desktops are going to be more niche people. Content creators like myself are going to keep using this because we need to edit video. We need to do specialized things. Gamers are still going to need specialized gaming hardware. Graphic design and other people in that creative thing like drafting or engineering, they're going to need powerful computers. Who doesn't? An office filled with accounting staff. You build everything as a web-enabled system. And I can actually speak a little bit to this. My wife works for the largest mortgage company in the world. Their desktop is irrelevant. They can log in any desktop, and all their web-enabled stuff just shows up and works, and the computer is a whole lot less relevant than it used to be. So it's no longer as specific as it used to be. That being said, this is also going to shift into what affects us as an MSP, what affects us on what we're doing, and you're going to see more popularity in securing the edge of these networks with things like pfSense and the firewalls, because no matter how cloud-enabled you make everything, you still have to make sure there's a clear channel between that desktop in order to get it securely to the secure endpoint that it needs to be on. So, yeah, that's a bigger, wider view of how it'll all shake out, I think. I could be completely wrong. I'm just some guy working in this industry for 21 years, and I don't know that I'm an authority. I'm just reflecting on my knowledge from all these years. So SD-WAN is becoming more and more relevant. We watch that every day. We're seeing more and more, with the VPNs into the cloud. This is a common setup we see for some of them. So you're seeing more and more of them. Matter of fact, not just VPN into the cloud, failover VPN. So you have multiple redundant connections and failover, and it technically is all software-defined networking with tools like pfSense. And if you didn't notice, the folks at Netgate I have not played around with it, but Your Network Transformed, and that's their TNSR, which is their AWS AMI. This is that software-defined networking. So it's not just when's it going to become relevant. It is relevant. So more clients, more jobs, man. That is all about knocking on doors, sending out letters with dollar bills stapled to them, showing people the value you can provide for them. It's the hardest part of this job for me and whatnot. So, yeah. Are cutting each other's throats in our area. It is commoditized. Find a niche that you're good at. This is, like I said, I create YouTube content. There's one niche. I do firewall work. There's a niche. I consult on UniFi and setup. Competing on a commoditized product is always a race to the bottom. Once everyone gets into it, it is. People want information. I consulted with a company in Pennsylvania. Anyways, on setting this same stack up for all their virtual machine stacks. That's another niche. One of the other niches I may get more into is cloud design for building infrastructure inside of things like AWS. When you want to build all that out. I do some of that on the side right now. I'm not as good at it, but it's actually one of the other things that Phil does, and me and Phil have talked about working together more on doing a series of videos on that. But this is also something, infrastructure is easy to manage but takes a lot of thought into setting up and building. So find some niche that's not commoditized, high knowledge on a certain subject, and that is the way you're going to make more money. You know, we like things because they rhyme. Sometimes they rhyme and are true. There's riches in the niches. You know, I've heard that a lot, but you'll find there is a little bit of truth in that particular rhyming thing. So have you accepted goods or service in trade for your work? Absolutely. There's a big bag of beef jerky in the fridge that came from a meat place that's our client. So hopefully the IRS isn't listening, because technically you're not supposed to trade work for food or things. So we'll pretend that maybe allegedly that happens. So allegedly we will come out and fix computers, and allegedly a big giant box of beef jerky will come back. So yeah, that does happen sometimes. There are rules. You're supposed to declare the value of it, and we always do. Trust me. We always do our taxes right. I know I'm joking. We actually do. This is one of the reasons I pay an accountant. Because if I actually, the accountant, I just outsource that to them. I know they're trustworthy, and they have no interest in screwing the IRS, although the tax bill makes me angry every month I pay it. That being said, I do outsource the accounting, so there's no mischievous things ever going on. It's kind of boring at that point, but I'm not an expert at tax code. I never pretend to be. I just, boom, I pay a monthly fee, and I have managed accounting, like you have managed service. So what are they, a managed accounting provider? They provide me my payroll, they provide me my accounting, they provide me the checks. They have a signature stamp. So the payroll checks get delivered to my employees without anything there, or direct deposit, depending on how the setups are for each staff member. They write the checks themselves to the IRS, and they are authorized to write the check. That's how they do the draw for taking the money from me that they charge for all these things. So yes, they have a managed accounting system, and it's the same concept. Matter of fact, theirs is kind of cookie cutter too. They do not have a ton of options. It's like a checkbox. Tom, do you need us to do your payroll? Check. Tom, do you need us to file your monthly sales tax, blah, blah, blah stuff? Check. Tom, do you want us to file your annual returns? Yes. All right, there's a service list. It's pretty short. It has a fee attached to it. They've been doing it for a while, but that's the same concept you want to apply when you're applying managed services to a client. You know, I expect it's coming from the thought of a business outcome. They provide me a business outcome. So, you must have won the lottery or had a relative with the same name pass away, etc. No, I grew up poor, if you're wondering. I don't know if that's, I don't know. I never had any wealth handed to me. I really wish I would. I mean, I have a couple of friends that did. I have a couple of friends that had a lot of money. I had a friend that had a windfall recently, and it took it. Well, he had recently, I said, within the last 9 months, he's broke now because he's absolutely horrible with money. He's a wealth dissipator at an absolute at an absolute astounding rate. Some people are like that. They're good at wealth dissipation. That's it's impressive how well they can piss away money. I'm cheap and I save money all the time. That's part of my success, I guess. I'm actually kind of boring. I don't spend a lot of money. You notice that when I said my toys are a couple old motorcycles, by the way, they don't cost much. I did not say my toys are my Lamborghini collection. So, anyways, what time is it? Holy crap, it's 3 o'clock. I do have somewhere I'm supposed to be eventually. My wife gets off work, I think, at 4. I don't know. We're supposed to go do a thing or something, and it's raining, so I wasn't doing anything else. She actually took the motorcycle to work, so she has a nice wet ride home, which I find amusing. Because I told her it was going to rain today. She says, no, it ain't. I said, yeah, it is. And so she's going to be soaked when she gets home. Oh, the fun. Oh, the fun. What else was I going to share with you guys? Where was it? Thought I had a picture. If you're wondering, maybe I don't. I guess not. Oh, there. For those of you wondering, if you even care, that's the motorcycle. If you're wondering what an S40 is, and that's my wife, who you've seen in a couple other videos and things like that. So she likes to ride too, so there is that. And then the scooters, that's one of the old Hondas. Like I said, I have a pair of these. So if you're curious, that's what I was planning on doing today, is playing with my old scooters. But as the weather would have it, I'm a fair weather rider. I'm kind of a wuss on that. So, oh, let's see. Yep. Hey, I tell you what, those I like the old motorcycles. A lot of them. I have specifics I like about certain motorcycles. I much more prefer the old school where I can adjust everything. I don't like, for example, any of the ones with the shimmed engines, because when I do the teardowns on them, I love when I can adjust all the tappets manually. I don't know if that particular model, Vince, has that, but that's one of those weird little things I look for, is how I can adjust the tappets, how I can adjust the timing on them, and things like that. So, yeah, Lawrence scooters, definitely thought about it. I can't actually, well, maybe I can. Hold on. I got it pulled up like this. I do have, so CT70. Where's that video at? One of my videos has become kind of popular on my personal channel. So, one, is it 81? Is that what year that one was? Oh wait, it's not a CT, it's just a C70. 15,000 views because I one time on my personal channel reviewed one of my scooters. So, yeah. There we go. What about IT and gearheads have so in hand? So many IT friends are wrenchers too. It's the technical aspect of it. I grew up fixing tractors, so yeah, that's a whole. I grew up as a gearhead on a farm, and I played with computers at every chance I had because I have a passion for computers. So, yeah, that's why I meet a lot of other people who are also gearheads and things like that. My rarest meet is, carbureted bikes. Same thing, sport bikes. Oh yeah, shimming valves and a Ducati. If you have the Ducati with the push-pull valve system too, that's a weird system I've seen on some of those. Pretty interesting. Nothing on the sand. I don't really do a lot of sand designs on there, so yeah, Scooter app get install new engine on scooter. It's a technical side. You know, I feel weird when I meet a tech person who says they like sports. That's always weird to me. I'm not saying you people don't exist. I'm just saying it is rare. I meet very, very few technical people. The ones, especially because I've always hung out with them in the hacker community, especially, that are into at all any type of sports. Now, I meet the general tech people, like your average technicians. I'm not trying to disparage them at all, but like the average on-site run-around tech that doesn't do the deeper technical stuff, they seem to be into... They seem to be more into sports. You know, I know a handful of them, but for the most part, I do not meet a lot of deeply technical people that I know, especially like the hacker group, that are ever into any sports. But I do meet a lot of them into motorcycles. So I've run into quite a few of them on there. So yeah. Tech friends that like sports. Yeah, motorsports, maybe there's some exceptions there. I guess, what do you define as sports? Now, I know more of them that like gaming are into gaming. Now, that being said, let's split it over to European. Not European. I read Freudian stuff. I read that and said, let's flip it over to programmers. I know a lot of programmers that are sport fans, that are big sport fans. And they're strictly programmers. They're not even hardware people at all. They work at enterprise level programming. They're very talented at what they do. So they are very technical in that aspect, but most of the ones I meet, the good programmers, are also not that weird geekiness that you get. Like, they're not the strange kid like I was growing up. So there's often a difference. And I'm not trying to divide anybody up into groups ever. I'm always just fascinated what makes some people like something and someone else not like something. I know psychology is always an interesting thing to me because I'm always fascinated how some people just get it and some people don't, and it just becomes very interesting. Yeah, there's, I'll actually throw this out there because someone says they were a professional athlete. Who is his name? Dolph? Is it Dolph Lundgren? He is an interesting. So here's what you would call Dolph Lundgren, a muscle-headed actor, and he plays that stereotype all the time. But man, the guy speaks numerous languages, has multiple scientific degrees. Like, he's a nerd. He's a big nerd, but he's a nerd. And I thought that was great. So there's for any rule, there's 20 exceptions. There's the gross generalizations we make about things. He has more than one PhD. I think he's got 2. I could be wrong. Let's look him up again. So let me reopen that closed tab. IQ of 160. Where is he? He's actually a fun facts about 9. Let's see, what was the stuff he's might be a genius. I didn't know he hung out with Andy Warhol. That's actually interesting. Oh, one box. I know he speaks a bunch of languages too. He's an interesting guy. Like I said, for anyone that you would say, here's a guy who's physically fit and an actor and everything else, and then also has all kind. I think he's got a doctorate. So let me degrees. There we go. What does he got? I think it's in chemical science. There we go. Yeah, he has a chemical engineering degree from the Royal Institute of Technology and a master's degree in chemical engineering from the University of Sydney. And he holds rank of 3rd Dan black belt in karate, European champion from 1980 1981. Those are things you don't always hear in the same sentence. I mean, here's a guy who's... This is interesting to me, too. So, yeah. Oh, let's see. I hate sports, but my boss got soreness. Yeah, 2 PhDs. The guy's a cyborg. Yeah. Really interesting. Yeah, go Sweden. Hey, alls I don't know a lot about Sweden, but I do like their flag, because that's a big plus about them. Bad joke, I know. Yeah, if I imagine if they seen Dolph Lundgren come at them, if he came at them without a shirt on, they would probably be scared. He's a big dude. You wouldn't want to tussle with him, I don't think. So, yeah, before we get way too off topic, bringing it back on topic, here's that used RAM percentage. What else? I was going to do something. It seems like I was playing with something in here that I turned off. Was it the clone? Yeah, we'll just shut down the console. Other side note, when you're in here for moving things around, so obviously it starts up, I cloned it instantly, I cloned it fast, blah, 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 that's cool. One of the other things you can do here too, I can migrate this to another system. I can also do this. Right now it's on the lab. I can click this button and in a few seconds, so we got 16 gig of data here. It takes just a couple minutes, and now it'll move it to a completely other storage repository. I did that also so we can get some stats here. I'm going to go over here to dis. Not dis, what do we want? Networking, that's what I was looking for. Because this is occurring over the network. So if we go here... And the disk should start chattering. Too many things open. There we go. Now it's moving. I don't know. I like my recumbent too. So, recumbent or motor, I don't know. I can't decide. That's my thought circle that I get in every time I want to figure out what toy to get out of the garage. For those of you know, I ride a recumbent bike. I pedal a lot too. What is being a future of VMware? Lots of inexpensive alternatives out there. So VMware is keeping themselves relevant with some of their deployments that work both on-site and in the cloud. So they have their SD-WAN stuff. They're being very relevant by still having a lot of opportunities and a lot of things in that market. So the other thing with VMware is what's going to keep them really relevant is the fact that they were there first. VMware is by far the dominant virtualization platform at the enterprise level. It's all over the place. So like all these enterprise companies have a VMware box within their system or part of their stack runs on VMware. That being said, that's going to keep them in the market for a very long time because why would I change to another virtualization platform and go through the trouble? There's an expense curve you have to look at to change versus VMware. As long as they keep their licensing reasonable, there's not much pressure to change. So these companies will keep buying the latest version of VMware because it's real easy to migrate from one version of VMware to the next one for the most part. So you're not going to see a ton of them get in there. Dell getting a virtualization? Do they offer a product or they just offer the hardware for virtualization? That I know of, they're not in virtualization any more than they ever were. They just have a product, the hardware. They sell the hardware, and of course they bought out the storage company. I can't remember the name. That's on their website. Let's open it up. ECC was... what's the storage company Dell bought? Please, someone help me because I can't remember their name right now. Servers. EMC. I keep saying ECC. I know it's not EMC. Thank you. Thank you very much. So EMC popular. SMX, EMC. So like I said, Dell's been around for a long time in this market. So they're not. I don't say that they're getting into it. They've not getting out of it. So they're still doing whatever Dell does, selling the hardware for running it. Dell sells a lot of the hardware for the server stuff. When we were at Microsoft Build, if you're not familiar with Azure Edge, this is something we covered on our, there's IoT Edge, Azure IoT Edge, and what are those servers called? This Azure Edge server stack. The Dell and Lenovo are competing on a lot of these workloads for the Azure Edge equipment and things like that. Yeah, and EMC owns VMware. So, I mean, I guess they're in it, but I thought you meant like a different product. So, yeah. So Dell owns the entire stack. I get what you're saying now. So it's not that they got into it. They bought their way into it. So that being said, all these companies are still offering lots of different virtualization stuff, and Dell's bread and butter is selling all the hardware that makes all this stuff work. That's where they do it. Dell sells services and things like that too, but I don't think they're going anywhere. And I don't know what percentage, but yeah, they own the majority. They're a majority shareholder of VMware, but VMware has been for a long time open that. So yeah, MS passed on VMware. They have Hyper-V. Microsoft knows their market is going to be the fact that they have this stronghold in everything right now. So their stronghold in things is what keeps them where they're at. They have the desktop market. You migrate from Microsoft Server to new version of Microsoft Server. Their competitor, think about this, Microsoft's competitor is time. Eventually, you need to buy our new server. And now as people are getting away from servers and things like that on site, their next target is you'll move to Azure. You'll move it to our cloud. You already have Active Directory set up. Then you just move to Azure Active Directory. So you host all that in a cloud, blah, 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 blah. So, well, VMware used to be Windows only, but VMware was more or less because they have their vSphere. The way it has its own underlying operating system becomes bare metal at that point. So, yeah. Some stuff is just so much easier to deal with on a Windows server. I don't know what's easier on a Windows server. To me, all-day Linux servers, to me, are easier from top to bottom. I love Linux servers. I service Windows servers. A few people ask why I don't do videos on them. I don't like it. I have set up so many terminal servers and things like that. That's what our day job is. It's boring. I have very little passion for it. I won't lie. I do it for a job because people pay me to do it, not because I think it's a great idea. But it fits the solution. Do I see the long-term curve? Yeah, I see more Linux and less Windows, especially because all these Linux cloud servers, and that's why even myself, I'm getting more into that. I need to get a drink here. So like I said, I don't know what's easier on a Windows server. I mean, maybe easier for some people because they have familiarity with pointing and clicking on things versus pulling up a command line on stuff is not always something everyone wants to do or is good at doing. So now this is moved over. We weren't paying attention. Now it's on the production box, which is faster. So now I'm curious. It should get the same IP address. We'll see when it boots. Hey, look, it booted. So what do we got here? IO zone, what we choose, is it 2? 2, 3, no, there we go. I don't know. It's every year is the year of the Linux desktop of the Vulkan API and stuff like that. That's that I don't know. I until the gaming gets over there, that's often the big hang up people have for that. So back to, we were talking like 400 and 500 megs peak on the other system. Here we are looking at, this is the newer, faster drives, the most recent drive purchases. So 732. That would be the read, and 534 on the write. So gets you a different idea of some of the speed you can achieve on this. That's what I was somehow mentally doing while we was talking to you. So yeah, probably. Running a PBX on a Windows box seems like a horrible idea to me. Windows, I see Windows moving their way more towards. No, I moved Neon off my ThinkPad. I use what do you call it? I'm still using Pop! OS on everything. So that's where I've moved to on there. Pop! OS on both my desktop and my laptop. But. Anyways, since you're PBX, your channel is having a ton of Ring Central ads. I know, I'm so happy about that. The free PBX video seems to be getting popular, and we get paid based on ad buys. So I love that we're making the money from that. Not that it's big money at all, but hey, whatever. So, yay, Windows. Yeah. Windows patching is difficult. They have, and I did an interview with, and let me find him on Twitter. What's his name? Actually, I'll just do this because I know his name is in here. Episode 256. So, Fresh Looks, episode 256, Microsoft gets Git. We did an interview with Martin Woodward and Edward Thompson. Martin Woodward, Microsoft. So in case you didn't know, Martin, Principal Group VP, President of .NET Foundation, part of the other thing he spends a lot of time doing is managing the whole Windows update system. And hey, thanks for those of you that were here that have to leave, because eventually I got to leave too. I got to leave pretty soon here. So he has to deal with the Windows update process. And, you know, we talked a little bit of off mic about that. It's just so big. Patching is like, they understand the scale of it, and they wish it could be better. There's so many factors, and I'm not making excuses, but Windows has become this behemoth that they're supporting. And that being said, when you look at the dev and the life cycle of it, there's a lot to it. And like I said, I'm not defending the fact that they have updates that go wrong. They could always do better. But man, the way Windows is huge and monolithic makes it very difficult to support. So yeah, that is an issue. Versus Linux is very modular and much easier to support because everything works in a very different manner, and it was designed from a get-go much easier to handle. So yeah. Yeah, Windows 10, and I don't know. I haven't run Windows since 2009, maybe. Windows 7 was the last time I used Windows, and whenever that came out. When did Windows 7 come out? I think Windows XP was Windows 7 release date. I can't remember now. I think, ran Windows 7, and that was it. I've been running Linux on my desktop for about 8 or 9 years now, so it's been so long of running Windows that, yeah, I don't even think about it. So I do have a gaming. I will admit I'm not proud of it. It's something that was the necessary evil. Is I do have a gaming desktop that runs Windows because my kids play it. The only game I play right now, I started getting into a little bit, was Destiny. Destiny's pretty cool, and Destiny 2 specifically. So, but I don't play a lot of games. I'm a kind of hit and miss on some of the gaming. So, yeah. One of those things, got to do what you got to do on there. So, oh well. I do have to get going, though, because I have to go do things and work and, not work, play more than anything else, and meet up with my wife shortly when she gets off work. We're supposed to go over some friends. Yeah, Anthem looked pretty cool. I actually watched the video for that, so. Yeah, horrible distro hopper? No, we all do some distro hopping. Part of the reason I have this virtual lab, I'm a server-side distro hopper. So this lab lets me play with all these fun tools on all the different things. So when I go here to the VMs and I filter for, let me see what I have in here. Playing with here's a CentOS system I have because I've been playing with a few things on that. Clonezilla, all these different Debian clones, the FreeNAS test server. I was doing some testing with Ubuntu. Then I have these Windows 10s. Obviously, we were doing some work with Android Studio. One of my staff was to fix a problem compiling something. And we have our Windows Server 2016 eval set up in here. So, yeah, that's just... yeah. No, the wife doesn't ever have to-do lists for me. So that's, would you ever make a video on Unraid? Just curious to know what your thoughts are about it. I have no interest in it. Nothing about Unraid makes me go, hey, I need to use that. It doesn't have a use case for me, and that's always one of the trickiest things. Do I have a use case? If I don't have a use case, then I don't use it. Other than if I have a burning desire to test it. And I just don't. I've looked at it going, it does everything FreeNAS does, has a couple extra features I'll never use. Because I know it has some hardware pass-through options. Excuse me. It has some hardware pass-through options, but I don't ever need those. So Unraid, I don't really see a future in me doing that. There's a couple people who do. There's actually a guy that has a whole series of videos where he's like an Unraid expert, and he breaks down a bunch of stuff. Neat if you're into it. So the content is out there. It's also not very popular. My FreeNAS videos get way more views than his Unraid videos. So there's also not like a market demand for me to really test it either. And I've obviously, I love FreeNAS and it does all the things that I want it to do. Therefore, I'm happy with it. So FreeNAS has been great to me. Actually, we'll go a step further. I've got to interact with and know some of the people on the FreeNAS engineering team, and they're great. So I think Unraid runs ButterFS. I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not ready to switch PBXs, though, either. Maybe we'll do some videos on phone testing stuff because I got a better idea how they work. But, yeah, that's lower on my list. We've done a lot of configuration and made everything work the way we want in FreePBX. So, yeah. Yeah, Space Invader 1, I think that's the guy. Yeah, well, let's look. We can look. We have the Google. We can answer these questions. File system for Unraid. File system. Lime Technology General Support. So it has XFS. Okay, ButterFS is in there. So it looks like it supports XFS, RiserFS, and BuzzerFS. RiserFS was interesting for a while, but I will tell you that these all shadow in comparison to ZFS. I'm sorry, ZFS is that great. So, yeah. So there's a sacrifice to be made by doing that. You lose certain features is how they're able to do that. You don't get those levels of redundancy and features that you get with ZFS once you start adding those features. There is some talk that there will be a future version of ZFS that will allow you to do that. So I'm going to get, like I said, I know Michael Lucas, and I've interacted with him on many occasions, and I'm going to have him on the channel. And by saying that, I'm going to get him to do some videos on ZFS, just to have a talk about it. If you read his book on it, and he wants to promote some of his fiction books, which I'm all for, because I like fiction writing from people that are really knowledgeable on technology, because I think it makes for a scientifically accurate book is very interesting to me. So I don't mind fiction. I love it when it's not, those stupid hacker stuff that we see all the time that make you go, oh my gosh, this is so horrible. So he's, very accurate on there. Prefer RAID cards. RAID cards got their good and bad. RAID cards are not as fast as ZFS, though. In case you're wondering, software RAID through ZFS is very, very fast. And how do I know such thing? Talk to the guys at Backblaze. They have talked about it. So, yeah, once you've experienced the beauty of ZFS and the speed of ZFS, it's really happy. You can look up some of the write-ups, and there's a talk given by the people who run Backblaze about how much faster using software RAID is. So. New UniFi controller will come. The new UniFi UI, I don't know. That I don't have an answer for. Check the forums. That's probably your best bet for there. My wife is a great sport when it comes to my crazy idea. Yeah. Zen NFS FreeNAS is funky. Yes. iSCSI is better. NFS doesn't support the asynchronous writing. Use that. You can read about that. Type in Zen, NFS, FreeNAS, asynchronous or synchronous writes. I'm one of those terms will land you on the discussion of that. So that's, yeah. No, we don't have any of those. So are checking the hardware cards for the most part. Yes. Yeah, G3 cameras are still out of stock everywhere. Let's check, actually, but as far as I know, UniFi G3. Yep. Yeah, 185. They're listing over MSRP because there's a shortage of them, so the companies that have them are charging more for them. So, all right, I've given you guys 2 hours. Thank you very much for all of you that were here. Awesome. All that fun stuff. And yes, ZFS doesn't eat RAM. ZFS caches in RAM. It's an efficiency thing. So that is why you want a lot of RAM in a ZFS box. So that's also why ZFS is so fast at reads. It sticks all that stuff in there, and like I was showing you guys here with the cache hits, when you jump to the ZFS file system and you start looking at the cache hits, ZFS actual cache hits and versus misses. The green are the hits, the red is the misses. Because I'm playing with some of the tools, but just this many hits is pretty outstanding for iSCSI. That's the only thing it's hitting. There's no one here at the shop but me, so it actually has a pretty good hit rate here for cached files. So yeah. French fries, crinkle cut or steak fries, man. I want some real potato taste. Don't give me those thin ones. All right, later, folks. For reals, later. Catch me on Twitter. You can message me there. I have our Facebook forum, which most people don't post in. Maybe you guys don't use Facebook. I don't blame you. I will do this some more Sundays, especially rainy ones and things like that. So definitely, like I said, love having all you guys. Thank you. I'm going to stop the stream so I can get out of here, or I'll sit here forever. I actually I'm going to do something. I get away from being in front of the computer so I don't get burned out and still stay relevant. All right, thanks.